Welcome to a special edition of Jesse Watters Primetime. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. There's a new sheriff in town, and the president's sending a message to every terrorist and gangbanger out there. You better buckle up. We're coming for you. Over the weekend, Trump stepped off his golf course to order airstrikes on the Houthis in Yemen. The president called them sinister mobsters, thugs, and sent Iran a clear message. Every shot fired by the Houthis will be looked upon from this point forward as being a shot fired from the weapons and leadership of Iran. And Iran will be held responsible and suffer the consequences. And those consequences will be dire. It's not just terrorists. The White House is sending a message to every illegal still in the country. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I know who I want to take me home.
And if that didn't get the point across, maybe the former UFC champ Conor McGregor will.
The illegal immigration racket is running ravage on the country. There are rural towns in Ireland that have been overrun in one swoop, that have become a minority in one swoop. And the 40 million Irish Americans, as I said, need to hear this, because if not, there will be no place to come home and visit.
It's been 8 weeks and border crossings are down and deportations are up. Self-deportations are at their highest level ever. But things could go a lot faster. So, over the weekend, the president invoked the Alien Enemies Act to go after and detain criminal illegals.
What do you say to those who claim you're using a 200-year-old law to circumvent due process?
An old law? Not as old as the Constitution. We still pay attention to that, don't we?
President Trump says we're at war.
The Alien Enemies Act has only been invoked 3 other times. They were all during times of war. Do you feel that you're using it appropriately right now?
Well, this is a time of war because Biden allowed millions of people, many of them criminals, many of them at the highest level. They emptied jails out. Other nations emptied their jails into the United States. It's an invasion.
The Democrats let our country be invaded by illegal gang members for years, for 4 years, in fact. Within hours of the president's new order, they were trying to sabotage it. As radical Obama judge, U.S. District Court Judge James Boasberg put a temporary restraining order on the use of the Alien Enemies Act. And he ordered 2 planes full of Venezuelan criminals en route to El Salvador to be returned. The White House ignored the judge, citing that the flights were already over international waters. 261 members of the Tren de Aragua gang and 23 members of MS-13 were sent to an El Salvador mega prison, one of the worst in the world. The president thanked El Salvador's president for taking them in, saying, "We will not forget."
This was one of the most successful counterterrorism operations in American history. Tren de Aragua was sent here by a foreign government. They are an agent of the Venezuelan government that has been sent to the United States. That is what triggers the predatory incursion language in the Alien Enemies Act. What you saw was every arm and agency of this nation's homeland security apparatus working together in perfect unison to secure the homeland.
And these are some of the most bloodthirsty monsters you can find.
These are monsters who tortured, raped, and murdered a 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungre. They murdered 22-year-old nursing student Laken Riley. They led a multi-state sex trafficking operation involving smuggling women into the United States, holding them in stash houses in Louisiana, Florida, New Jersey, Texas, and Virginia, and forcing them into prostitution. And they kidnapped and murdered a 33-year-old woman in Texas. And because of the effective immigration policies of this administration, those foreign terrorists were detained, and they are no longer operating on American soil, and we have President Trump to thank for that.
But the Democrats and the media are taking the side of the violent illegals.
We're not at war with Venezuela. We're not at war with the gang that is the subject of the executive order. There is no invasion that is going on. And you also have to show that the people you're removing are actually part of that gang, even if there were an invasion or a war. And this statute may, in fact, be very unconstitutional.
White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller has a message for Mr. Weissman.
Andrew Weissman is an absolute moron. He is a moron, and he is a fool, and he's a degenerate. Andrew Weissman has devoted his career to putting innocent Americans in jail, taking away their civil liberties. He was involved in the Mueller coup against a democratically elected President Donald J. Trump. Weissman should never be on TV anywhere. He should hang his head in eternal shame for what he's done to this country. And now he's up there shilling for people who rape and murder Americans. That's who Andrew Weissman is.
And Tren de Aragua has already set up shop in 16 states. They're killing and raping Americans. And the Democrats are taking their side, not yours. And they've been making excuses for these criminals for months now. Even the governor of Colorado tried minimizing his state getting taken over.
The Aurora police, the Republican mayor of Aurora, have a very different version that they've told me. What I've told the city of Aurora is the state is ready, but the police, the mayor, continue to reassure us. And of course, they've had a number of events. They've been to the complexes. They've said that they've never been under gang control. So it seems like another one of those things that Donald Trump is either exaggerating or making up. But the city of Aurora is great.
Amazing. And ABC even started picking fights over it.
Senator Vance, I'm going to stop you because I know exactly what happened. Martha. I'm going to stop you. The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border? Americans are so fed up with what's going on. You seem to be more focused with nitpicking everything that Donald Trump has said rather than acknowledging that apartment complexes in the United States of America are being taken over by violent gangs.
Now, blue states are harboring some of these illegal thugs. Kathy Hochul says she's not letting Holman and his wrecking crew come into New York.
I want to make sure that we have an understanding on immigration that says we'll help you when you have serious violent criminals you need to get off the streets. I've always said that. We've done that under the Biden administration, but we're not going to be there to allow you to just take people off the streets and split up families.
Wow. Meanwhile, sanctuary city lawyers are plotting to help illegal migrants evade ICE. Keeping criminals off our streets used to be a bipartisan issue.
There's a city not far across the river from my state that imposed similar sanctions. And what they found out is, as a consequence of that, their city went in the dumps, in the dumpster. Stores started closing. Everything started to happen. And they changed the policy. Part of the problem is you have to have a federal government that can enforce laws. This administration has been fundamentally derelict in not funding any of the requirements that are needed even to enforce the existing law.
So, Senator Biden, yes or no, would you allow the cities to ignore the federal law?
No.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.